Welcome, everybody, to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Got a great show today, folks. I know yesterday I was a little vague about what we're talking about today, but we've got a great show today with Mary Reynard Liss. And there is a book out there called The Rain Said Samsara. I have to make sure I've got everything out there. A great book that I got a chance to read and absorb, because there's a lot of great knowledge within the pages of this fictional book. And there's a couple of phrases, actually, that hit me right between the eyes as I was reading this book, which I'll tell you this much. And when I bring Mary in here, I'll let her know herself that you've got to be, I think, somewhat deep of a spiritual nature in order to pull these little nuggets of knowledge, spiritual knowledge, in order to put it on the page. I mean, it really... there's some things in there that kind of not only hit you in the mind, but hit you right there in the soul. And you go, wow, it's just kind of takes your breath away when you read some of these passages in this book. So really, I really do encourage you to pick up what you may think is just a fictional romance novel. And it's really quite the spiritual romance novel and supernatural romance novel. We'll talk more about it in the second half of the program here, but I want to get to know Mary first, because she's had some experiences that are going to set you back as well. Let me tell you a little bit about Mary. We'll bring her in. Mary Reynard Liss is from Chicago, Illinois. She moved to Los Angeles and was part of the indie film scene. She may still be. As a member of the City Lit and Red Twist Theater, she directed A Body of Water. This is her first book. It's called The Rain Said Samsara, and it is a good one. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring her in now to Darkness Radio. Here is Mary Reynard Liss. Mary, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm delighted to have you. So, I want to find out first, and I know it's kind of stereotypical to start out with this question. I don't normally like to start out with it, but I will. What is your first memory of having a supernatural experience?
Probably it would be when I was a little girl and I felt two hands on my shoulder pushed me down and out of the way of a car.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know who it was at the time, or did it feel just like, you knew something?
It felt like a human being. It felt like two human hands. But, when it pushed me down on the ground, and when I looked up, there wasn't anybody there.
What was the circumstances that a car was coming at you at the time? Were you playing, or what was going on?
I was playing. I was just a kid playing in the street. And, we had teenagers in our neighborhood. It was probably some teenager, driving too fast through our little winding streets. And I went running out into the street to get a ball. And could have been a tragedy. Oh, my goodness.
Now, a lot of people who tend to be, I'll put it this way, tend to be supernaturally blessed. We'll put it that way. They tend to have these unusual experiences where maybe they're touched, or they in some way. And when I say touched, I mean physically touched by something, or they might hear a whisper or a voice, or maybe they hear something in their head, or they see an apparition or something to that effect. What age was that when you were pushed out of the way of the car?
Oh, gee, it couldn't have been more than 4.
Really?
Probably 4, yeah.
How soon afterwards do you start to have things happen to you?
You mean other supernatural events?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anything as concrete as that until I was a teenager. But, but when you're a child, you're so open to the psychic realm that it seems natural. So they weren't things that scared me or that made a big impression on me as being unusual. But I imagine things happened, but, nothing that is emblazoned in my memory.
Was the supernatural a thing that was pretty easy to talk about in your family, or is it something that you really didn't address?
Well, yes, in as much as that miracles were. Okay. Like I was brought up in a very devout Catholic household, and Padre Pio was very talked about in our home. And he had the stigmata.
Yes. Yep.
With holes from Christ in his hands. And so that was like awesome, to talk about Padre Pio. And the other saints, the Blessed Mother. Oh, actually, that's something. I used to see little white feet standing on golden roses when I was falling asleep at night. And I always identified that with the Blessed Mother. So, yeah, we talked about miracles a lot, and the presence of miracles was accepted in our household.
Well, Mary, we can't skip over that. You saw white feet on roses, and at the time, did you bring that up with your family? And did anybody, or even your priest, and did anybody explain to you what that was?
No, I told them. I told my mother. I said, I see the Blessed Mother's feet standing on golden roses when I fall asleep. And
so you knew who it was?
I knew. I felt sure that's who it was. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and she'd go, "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful." It wasn't anything out of the ordinary.
So no one discouraged you when you said it was a Blessed Mother?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
That's wonderful.
Well, and my grandmother was very psychic.
Okay.
My grandmother was one of those people who could find missing objects and who saw spirit manifestations off to the side, which happens to me frequently, actually.
Okay.
But she could do that, and it was just pretty normal in our house.
Interesting. All right. So you see the Blessed Mother, and this is something that would you say it happened rather frequently, or was it infrequently? How often?
Sometimes every night.
Really?
And then, yeah, just as I was going to sleep. And then, how when you're a kid, things shift.
Mm-hmm.
Then, something would change in my life, or suddenly I'd be in the second grade or something, and my mind was full of other things, and I wouldn't see it for a while. But then, I see it my whole life. I still see it to this day. But now it's only occasionally. Now, the last time I saw it actually was when a friend of mine got in a very dangerous situation. And thank God he had concealed carry because he might have been killed. And as I was falling asleep, I'm like, oh, there's the Blessed Mother's feet on the golden roses. And so I felt like she was telling me that she had been watching over him and saved his life.
Oh, wow. Now, does she ever come forward and give you visions of things that may happen?
No.
Never?
No.
Do you find that any of the Catholic icons will come forward? Like say, I'm trying to come up with one that may. It escapes me right now, Mary. I'm sorry. But what's that?
I said, oh, that's okay.
But any of the protective saints come forward and may say, I'm here to, either A, I'm here to protect you, or B, here's what you should look out for?
No, but I will say that I had a very strong relationship with what I, in my belief system, identified as my guardian angel, who I always saw or felt as I fell asleep at night, like behind me. And it was like this really tall, huge beam of energy that was standing there protecting me. And recently I've been reading about guardian angels, and they say Sandalphon was a very tall, they knew him as the tall angel. And I thought, wow, I wonder if Sandalphon is also my guardian angel.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting indeed.
But I feel like I had a very close relationship with my guardian angel most of my life. And then that kind of fell by the wayside. And then recently that's been reignited, where I feel the presence of that angel again.
Why do you suppose they drop out and then come back? Is it something where you don't necessarily need them at the time, or is it something where maybe they have other things to do?
I don't think it's them that are dropping out. I think it's a shift in the consciousness of the person. Really? That like a channel, that channel kind of gets overwhelmed by other channels. Your attention is drawn elsewhere.
Okay. We all go through different times in our life too, where things are going on, or we're going through different periods in our life, where things may be more chaotic than other times. And I thought maybe it was with different guides. Maybe it's like, I'm going to use a really bad analogy here, Mary, but we're coming up on baseball season where you need a different pitcher for different situations, right? You may need a short reliever. You may need a long reliever, whatever it may be.
Could be.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I don't either. I guess I don't have all the answers. I thought maybe that with these different heavenly saints and angels coming in, that maybe they did whisper in your ear. Has that ever happened where they whisper in your ear and give you some of those answers ahead of time?
Yes. Also, departed loved ones have whispered in my ear frequently.
Really?
Frequent. Like, this is kind of a funny story. When I needed extra money, I was a seat filler, and I was in Judge Judy's courtroom.
Really?
And, yeah, it's not an easy job because you're on camera.
Yeah.
And you have to sit there. You want to scratch your face, and you want to yawn, and you can't. You just have to sit there, and the air conditioner is blowing in your face and all this stuff. It's not easy. So I'm sitting there, trying to be a good seat filler. And I heard in my ear, Mary. And I thought, what was that? And then again, Mary. And I turned around and I thought, oh my God, how funny. On that episode, they're going to see this one person in the gallery interacting with somebody who's not there. Then I turned back around, and then I heard like a little conversation, like, yes, like they were whispering about me, but I couldn't quite hear what they were saying. And then again, I heard Mary. And so, and again, I turned around, but when I left and I got home, I texted my sisters and I said, is everybody okay? Because I think Mom kept whispering in my ear. And, and it's not easy for a spirit to manifest. So if she was doing that, there must have been a reason.
Right.
And it turned out that my one sister had a really horrible thing happen to her. I won't get into it, but she had a horrible thing happen to her, and she was totally destroyed and devastated and distraught.
Oh, no.
And I said, well, Mom whispered in my ear, and I'm sure she wanted me to tell you that she's with you, and she's taking care of you, and she's watching over you.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think it's funny because it's documented on Judge Judy.
Well, not only that, but it's probably a good thing Judge Judy didn't find out, because she's pretty cantankerous, right?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. It was fun working for her.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was she, Judy Scheinland, is she as cantankerous in real life as she is on TV?
Well, she doesn't interact that much with the rest of the people.
Okay.
But she does occasionally, and she's pretty funny.
Okay.
Like, once the courtroom got invaded by gigantic flies.
Really?
And I think this episode, you can probably find it, she got a fly swatter and she said, we're going to roll. And she got a fly swatter and she just kept swatting the flies, the whole time that she was running her courtroom. So, I mean, she could be really funny.
That is funny.
Yeah.
That sounds about right?
Yeah.
Especially for her, that's pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I've heard people whispering in my ear many times. And I've seen spirit manifestations a few times too.
Now, you mentioned this before the show that you've seen many spirit manifestations. Is there one that would pretty much take you aback that showed up in front of you kind of suddenly?
Yeah. In Chicago, my sisters and I went on a ghost tour, and we went to Hull House, and our guide said that there is a ghost that haunts Hull House that walks down the stairs, and that some people see her and some people don't. And so I was looking, and I just got this, this sensation, this otherworldly sensation that she was there. And I grabbed my picture, and actually I turned around and took a selfie, and it's me. I should have sent you the picture. I forgot about this. It's me, and you can see her. You could actually see her walking down the stairs. I mean, it's all smoky, but you could see the shape of her foot, like stepping down onto the next step.
Really?
And yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Mary, if you still want to, after we get done taping here, if you still want to send the photo, I can take and post a separate blog on darknessradioshow.com, and then we can post the photo there.
Sure, I'll look for it and I'll send it to you.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
Yeah, but that took me back.
I bet it did.
You could see it on my face in the photo. I looked totally freaked out.
Oh, wow.
The
Wow.
photo, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And I put it on social media. I put photo bombed by a ghost.
that's crazy. Yeah, we'll look forward to it, and then we'll put it on darknessradioshow.com. I'll put a little blog up, and we'll show everybody there, and everybody can follow over there. So yeah, very cool, very cool. Well, have there been other manifestations that have happened in front of you? Other spirit manifestations that have taken you back a little bit?
Yeah, another was I woke up one morning, and I was in that twilight sleep, and there was a woman, and it was in black and white. And her vibration was like electrical. And she was just pulsing really quickly at the foot of my bed. And you know how in horror movies they have women going, ah, ah,
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not because you're scared, it's because your nervous system, because that's what I did. My nervous system got so overwhelmed, I was like that.
Yeah.
And it's because your nervous system can't handle the vibration. And, I just looked at her, and she was kind of short and stout, and she was dressed in a black dress with a white apron and a white kind of, those little like lace caps they used to wear a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who she was. And then a day or two later, my aunt died. And, then when I went with my mom to the funeral and we were looking through pictures, there was the woman.
Really?
And yeah. And she was like my aunt was her favorite. So for some reason, she chose to tell me, your aunt is going to be passing away.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure that's why she came.
Wow.
And then I saw, I wouldn't say it wasn't a manifestation, but when my grandfather died,
Mm-hmm.
I was asleep and I saw him walking down the road. And as he walked down the road, he got younger and younger and younger. And then he took off his suit coat and he took off his shirt and he took off his shoes and he was a little boy again. And he was running down the road and he was so happy. And the phone rang. That's what woke me up. And it was my mom saying, your grandfather just passed away. So
that's an interesting way of having that dream. I've said this before on the show, but when my grandfather died, I saw a shooting star going from the earth up into the heavens. And I knew at that moment he had gone. I woke up and I knew he was gone.
Yeah. Our the people that we love so deeply in this earth, they let us know, they find a way to let us know what's happening with them.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting way of doing that, of telling somebody that I've shed that mortal skin and I've gone back to my essence.
Well, and then I kind of hesitated to tell you this because it happened recently. And if my sisters see this, I don't think it will upset them. But my brother passed away a couple of years ago. And I woke up, in the morning, and he was sitting on my bed. And he looked so young. He was a real handsome guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody called him the Elvis Presley of Elk Grove Village. He was in a rock band and everything. Yeah. But I was like, my God. I took him so for granted. I didn't realize how handsome he was. Mm-hmm. And he was so young and he was so happy. Yeah. Yeah. So it made me not be fearful. I think once you get to the other side, there isn't disease, there isn't age, it's like happiness and joy, hopefully. That's what I've seen anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we even need to put hopefully in there, right? I mean, I think it just is, right? Yeah. I mean, that shining, eternal, vibrant, exuberant, go get them type of energy, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've had some other experiences as well that I think are kind of knock you off of your feet type of experiences, haven't you?
Yeah. Like when I was traveling, there was a time in my life when I traveled a lot. Mm-hmm. I think when a lot of people traveled a lot. I don't know that people travel as much as they used to.
No, not now, no.
Yeah. And I was traveling through Egypt. And I had always been fascinated by Egypt. And I had read that Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great had lain down in the sarcophagus in the king's chamber at the Great Pyramid of Giza. So I thought, wow, I would love to do that. And I thought, I'm sure they won't allow me, number one. And plus, there wouldn't be an opportunity because there's probably a steady stream of tourists, going up and around. So anyway, this is when my husband was living. We traveled a lot together.
Okay.
And so we went to the Great Pyramids, and he couldn't go in because he had had a heart attack. And you have to go up this real steep plywood plank with 2x4s, that you steady your feet on. So, it's not an easy climb up there, and it's hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up there with the guide, and I was the only one. There wasn't anybody else there.
Really?
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I mean, what are the chances? So we go up and we get into the king's chamber, and I'm there in the king's chamber with this funny little guide who kept going, "Oh, American, hubba hubba." And I know, he was so funny. And I said, "Can I get in?" And to him, it was just another day at work. He's like, "Yeah." And he helped me get in. And I laid down in the sarcophagus, and boom, I was out. I was in a trance. And I wish I had sufficient knowledge to tell you what I saw, but I saw geometrical shapes and lines and things coming together and forming things and then coming apart and forming other things. And it all made sense, when I was there.
Okay.
It made perfect sense when I was there. It was beyond language. It was, an energetic field beyond language. And I must have been out about 20 minutes. And then I became overwhelmed with fear that if I didn't wake up, I would die. And I kind of woke myself up. And, I sat up. And the guy, extended his hand to help me out. And he helped me out. And I was just in a daze. And I thought, wow, how many people have had the privilege of laying in the sarcophagus in the king's chamber? And
did he seem concerned with you, Mary, that you were down for that long?
No, he didn't.
No?
I think, no, he was just this real wiry little guy, kind of comical. No,
Yeah.
he just probably took a coffee break. Let him take a nap.
Either that or he's enamored with the Hubba Hubba American that's in the sarcophagus, one or the other.
Right, who's astral projecting or something, God only knows what.
Yeah.
But I do wonder why I felt so frightened that if I didn't wake up right now, I was going to die. I don't know if my energy had left my body or what was going on, but I did use those visions of the energetic fields all coming together at that point, under the apex of the pyramid.
Right.
They called that pyramid power. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep.
Where it was supposedly it channeled all that energy. So all that energy was coming together at that apex. I did use that experience in my book for when the lovers kissed at point zero
Yep.
in front of Notre Dame Cathedral.
I wonder if you say you feel like you were going to die or expire, but I wonder if you think it wasn't just muscle memory or body memory or spiritual memory, thinking at that point that the link wouldn't become permanent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at that point, you're wondering if you're not going to get taken back into that life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could be. But whatever happened, it was beyond what I could handle. I had to come back immediately.
Well, again, it might have been a past life memory of something bad might have happened in that life with that link. And it was like, yeah, don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, that could be.
So you needed to recoil because maybe something happened with a bad death in that life.
Mm-hmm.
So don't want anything to do with that.
Right.
So let's get out of that situation.
Yeah. And then another experience I'd like to bring up because it's important in the book.
Please.
Is doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was probably maybe 15 or 20 years ago by now. My girlfriends, I had these very, very Catholic girlfriends, and one of them had gone to Medjugorje, where the Blessed Mother was appearing and healing people, kind of like Our Lady of Lourdes. And she called me and she said, the prophets from Medjugorje are coming to the Berwyn Cemetery. The Blessed Mother told them to come there.
Mm-hmm.
And Aggie and I are going. Her name was Loretta. And so Aggie and I and Marie are going, and we want you to come with us. So I went, and we got to the cemetery, and, there were a lot of people. I don't know if there were 1,000, but there were hundreds. And because I'd been a director, I kind of like to stand in the back and watch the whole dynamic,
Yeah.
So I stood at the back of the crowd, and I was watching. And the prophets came forth, and they said that the Virgin was there with a flock of angels and all this. Then they turned to the crowd, and they said, the Blessed Mother wants us to call forth some people. And they called me forth. And I was like way in the back. It's not like I was up in front going, me. So like I was like way in the back, and they go, and I'm like, me? And they're like, yes, you. And the people, like got out of my way, and I walked forward. I think there were maybe 6 of us that got called forth. And they anointed us with oil and whispered in my ear that the Blessed Mother had chosen me because she wanted me to help her in her mission to bring peace on earth.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. And for years I thought, wow, she must be really disappointed in me. What am I doing to bring peace on earth? But then when I wrote this book, I thought the whole foundation of this book is peace, love, and peace on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, I did find the words to talk about that when you are in that energetic state, all you want to do is reach out to other people and bring them in there with you.
Yeah.
And that's the next step of evolution, is to include everyone, not to be so protective of what you believe you need to create a life for yourself.
What I found really interesting about the book, and again, we'll get into the book in the second half of the program here, is you do attack it from one perspective or religion, but then there's 3 different stories in this book, and we'll explain that in the second part of the program. But then in the third story, the third couple, and you deal with reincarnation, which isn't necessarily Catholic.
No.
And then the third couple, they take a not necessarily any religious point of view.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to show an evolution from the first incarnation where their love was pure joy and gratitude and connection to nature and to the divine, mm-hmm. into the second lifetime where art became their path to the divine, which I believe art is. Mm-hmm. And then in the third incarnation, it was like they were being overwhelmed by sex, drugs, and rock and roll and violence, and were having a hard time finding their way back because civilization was turning their back on what they knew was the greatest gift that we have as human beings, the ability to connect to the divine.
Yeah, yeah. Was there a point in your life at all that you were turned away from the divine, or there was a point where you were blocked from the divine and you felt like you were disconnected?
Not consciously, but I would say after my husband died, I had I guess what people would describe as the black night of the soul, mm-hmm. Where it was just wandering in the wilderness, kind of. Yeah. Or as my sister-in-law said, what did she say? Shucking wood and bringing water, like where you can't really, I just couldn't, it was like my nervous system blew up or something. I couldn't even remember who I was or what I did or what I believed, but eventually, to my shock, and maybe to some of your listeners, this might help them, eventually you do find your way back. And eventually, I know it sounds blasphemous because when you lose someone you love, you think I could never be happy again. Eventually, you are happy again.
There's a lot of people, Mary, that was going to be my follow-up. There's a lot to you and ask you that question. There's a lot of people that listen to this program that have lost someone close to them that say to themselves, I don't know how you can turn back and have faith again, because why would they take, why would God take someone I love?
Yeah.
And how do you do it? How do you turn back again and have that faith again?
Well, we all die, number one, which was a great shock to my conceit. It's like, we all die. When my husband died, I couldn't believe it, and everybody dies. It's just a question of when. It's part of life to die. And then, yes, people suffer. And that really does challenge faith. That really does challenge faith. And I don't have any answers for that. I don't know why people have to suffer the way they do, so much more than others. I don't know. I don't understand it. But I do understand that faith, it's not a discipline, it's not submission, it's sustenance. And that without faith, I couldn't have made it. And for me, and this is also in the book, faith is like the connection to the divine. Mm-hmm. It's an energetic connection that sustains you. It's not punishing, and it doesn't demand obedience and discipline like a lot of religions tell you it does. I don't believe that. That's the revelation I had in front of the statue of St. Teresa. And interestingly enough, after I had that revelation, mm-hmm. I was wandering around the church looking at things, and they had little telephones in the back where you could listen to the history of the church.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but they did back then. And it turns out some great theologian had that same insight in front of the statue of St. Teresa.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if he left an energetic signature that I picked up on, or if just at that particular location in the church, that maybe it might be a vortex, where the energy comes through very clearly, and you feel that connection to the divine. Wow. So I placed both Teresa, Salvo, and Claude in my book. Mm-hmm. All have experiences there that are very dearly needed. Transforms Claude's life.
Yeah.
When he kneels before the statue of St. Teresa.
That it does. I tell you what, let's take our break. And when we come back, because you've also had an experience or experiences in France. So when we come back, we'll tie those experiences in with the book. And I want to get into the book, which is amazing. It's called The RAIN SAID SAMSARA. And we have a link in the description of this program, so you can go get that book. It is not just a romantic book or a romance book. It deals with reincarnation. It deals with 3 different couples, which...
they're all the same couple.
Oh, I know. I was going to get to that. There are 3 different couples that are the same couple.
Right.
But you see how they evolve throughout the ages. And yet... I say 3 different, but and they're the same, but you see how the beliefs change, yet the love stays the same throughout time, which is amazing. And how they change through time. It's a fascinating book, folks. And the spiritual knowledge that comes out of this book is quite amazing. And it will hit you right here. I mean, it just hits you right in the heart. So it's rare, and I'll tell you, Mary, I will tell you how rare it is that I have a fictional author on the show for the paranormal side of things. But I chose to have you on because I was quite affected by the book. So I do encourage people to go get this book and read it. It's quite it's quite a good book. It's a good book. It's a book that not only has knowledge, but also is quite emotional as well. So when we come back, we'll talk about briefly about, because I don't want to give anything away too much about the book. I want you to savor it yourself. The RAIN SAID SAMSARA. Again, I want you guys to check it out. Go get it. It's in the description of this show. More with Mary Reynard Liss when we come back right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Oh, folks, before we go to break, you know what? I forgot to tell you this. If you're looking for someplace romantic tomorrow night, Friday, you want to check out Jelly Bean and Julia's in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Why? Because they've got a delicious smoked prime rib dinner. If you're local here in Minnesota, I'll tell you this much. You remember Tequila Berries. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe, 20 years ago? 10 years? 20 years ago? They had an amazing prime rib dinner. Well, Corey and Coley have brought back that prime rib dinner. Not only that, but they brought back the famous Tequila Berries salad. You remember that salad, right? That's right. The smoked prime rib, the tequila berry salad, the sides, and whatnot. It's all right there. And bring your sweetheart. The two of you can have that amazing dinner at a wonderful price. Not only that, but they've got live entertainment. They've got, if smoked prime rib is not your thing, they've got the wonderful brisket. I love that brisket, by the way. They've got ribs, they've got chicken, they've got daily specials, and much, much more. We have a link in the description of this program. They're our sponsor, Jelly Bean and Julia's, and thank you, folks, for sponsoring this program. Jelly Bean and Julia's in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Go check them out. We'll have more with Mary Reynard Liss right after this. You're listening to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Mary Reynard Liss. The name of the book, The RAIN SAID SAMSARA. We're going to get into it now and talk about this book. A wonderful book, folks. Again, I don't want to classify this book, but I'm going to, Mary. And I would say it's a supernatural romance that delves into reincarnation and more of a more than just an affair of the heart. It's an affair of the soul. Is that a good way of putting it?
Very good way of putting it.
Okay. With that, give us a little bit of an overview of what this book is about.
It's about two lovers who reincarnate together over the span of 3 centuries, and who bring the lesson they've learned from one life to the next life, and we see how it affects their decisions and their current lifetime, and then into the third life where they're really challenged because all of their belief systems are being challenged, but they still search and find a way to maintain their connection to the divine.
I tell you, there's a couple of interesting concepts in this book. And I think I flagged one of them. Towards the end of the book, Mickey and Marissa are talking about how the world seems to be passing them by.
Yeah.
There's that with technology. One of them is using holograms in their art. And then they realize at a particular point that technology is consuming nature.
Yes.
And that's not how it's supposed to be. And it's interfering with our connection to the divine.
Absolutely.
And it's such
it also makes Marissa more vulnerable to the evil force, who is now creates technology. In the first life, it was the father who wanted to have her killed at birth. In the second life, it was her father again, unfortunately, who had very, very severe mental problems because of trauma. Mm-hmm. But he has a transcendent experience and he's healed. But then in the third life, he's a psychotic serial killer, and he creates technology, and she's working with technology. So it gives they're in the same energetic field. So it makes her more vulnerable to him.
Yeah. And it's one of those, it's more profound, just that concept that you've put there. I think it's more profound than you know. I mean, you kind of have thrown that line in the water that's something that we're not talking enough, I think, about in society.
Yeah. That we're accepting what seems on screens, like a second-hand fictional experience. What seems, we're accepting that as reality instead of organic and spiritual reality. We're moving from screen to screen to screen, accepting that.
Well, we've even tried to chase spirituality on screen, and it feels empty, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at least I think so. It's just my 2 cents that, even people have left. And this is just my observation. This isn't the observation of anybody else, but people have left churches and synagogues and in mosques and left their spirituality behind in person to go find it on television and computers and PCs and tablets and to go watch it online because they can do it from the comfort of their home, or they maybe they pick up an EMF meter and they go look in a haunted building for it because maybe it'll whisper to them.
Yeah, it's confusion, don't you think? I think that there definitely is a place for technology, especially in medicine and science. But I think right now is a time of great confusion where we have this amazing gift, but we don't know how to use it. And it's just overwhelming people's consciousnesses. But the time was right anyway, because people were already turning away from God. Remember in the 60s, Time magazine cover, "Is God Dead?"
Yeah.
People were already talking about the disconnect to God and the feeling that a connection to divinity was superstition. And there is a lot of, I think, misinterpretation in every religion as to what the sacred word of God is. And so that can fuel, the people who want to turn away from God. But I feel let me just give you an example. Maybe this will make it a little more clear. Like in a really ancient script, before it was interpreted into English and other various languages, there used to be a linguistics expert. I think her name was Melissa. I can't remember her last name. She was on late at night, and she would go through all the different Bibles, like in Aramaic and Greek and Coptic, and give the interpretation, and then give the King James interpretation. And the rock bottom interpretation was not, "You are sinners and you need to repent," and it was nothing like that. It was like, you need to walk in the light of Christ and experience a metamorphosis. And that's what I experienced at the statue of St. Teresa. That when you feel that, it's like there is no sin there. You can learn to forgive, because when you walk in that light, those things don't exist in the Christ consciousness or in, there are different names I know in different religions for that pure divine consciousness.
Interesting.
And so I think people were turning away because of bad interpretations of religion and continue to. Although I think people are really desperate. They're desperate for spiritual connection. Yeah.
That's the disconnect, though, right? It's the words get thrown at them and they get twisted. The feeling isn't there. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think they think it's a lot more complicated than it really is, because all it really is opening yourself up and receiving the divine energy that is there.
Yeah.
And people complicate it or think that they could never achieve it, or they have to fast for 40 days or do this or do that, where really all you have to do is open yourself up to it and want to receive it. And it's there.
And I think, and let's be fair here, Mary. I mean, you're a Catholic, I'm a Catholic. It's our own religion that said, one, you can't do anything supernatural and be involved in our religion, right?
Right, right.
So it took the feeling out of the religion. You know, you can't, you know, and it started to set it up so that it took the feeling out of the religion.
Well, yeah, and they eliminated all those amazing books from the canon, like the Book of Enoch. You know, all these books that were just filled with information about humanity and human evolution, and they took them out.
Mm-hmm.
They took them away. You know, so I don't think any religion is perfect. And yes, I'm still a Catholic, and it's a belief system I'm familiar with, and I can find what I'm looking for within that belief system. But I don't, now the Catholics are not going to like me for this, but I don't think it's exclusive. You know, I think that there are other paths to the divine,
right,
and other belief systems that will bring you to the divine.
Right. Yeah. And I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's one exclusive system. I believe people can worship and should worship who they worship. And you're right. I believe there's more than one way to get there. But it to me, much like with you, this is the system I'm comfortable with. I'm not comfortable with everything Catholics say or believe.
No. Yeah, me neither.
You know, but that's where I'm at. It's there's another passage in the book which is incredibly powerful, and I won't get into too much detail because, again, I want people to read the passage. But it has to do with Teresa and, is it Salvo, right?
Oh, right.
Where they're in Notre Dame, and it has to do with the mingling of energies. Can you explain where that comes from and how it came from real life?
I'm not quite sure which passage you're referring to.
Let me try and pull it up here. I was trying to grab it out of the book here. I think it's when they first go into the cathedral. Oh, now you got me at a disadvantage here. I'm trying to find it here on the page. I've got my iPad in front of me here for those of you who are watching on video.
Could it be the mingling of energies between people, that they were becoming spiritually tuned to one another?
I'm trying to remember if they were. See, I'm doing a bad job of describing this here. We may have to go past it, but you did have an experience at Notre Dame, correct?
Right, in front of the statue of Saint Teresa.
Oh, okay. You mentioned that. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the experience that the two of them have at Notre Dame that I'm thinking of?
They kneel before the statue of Saint Teresa.
That's it. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Right. And just to have this make a little more sense, in their first incarnation, they were both in religious orders, and they only met once, and they only shared one touch of their hands, because he came to give her information, and as he left, he touched her hand, and that completely transformed her, and it raised her consciousness, and it brought her to the place where she became a nun, because she had been an abandoned child that was brought there secretly so that she wouldn't be killed. But just that touch of his hand was electrifying to her, and it changed everything. So now they're in Notre Dame Cathedral, and he takes her hand, and they're kneeling before Saint Teresa, and he actually takes her hand, and they're united, like gripping each other's hands as they kneel before the statue, and this energetic field opens to them and fills them both. And, they talk about it as that they were married. It unites their souls. that it was a very unifying energy and one that flowed through both of them at the same time and through their hands, and that their soul became one.
That's it. That you did a very good job of explaining it, but you wrote it. Yeah, that's what it was. I did like I said, a very poor job of describing that. So,
No.
yay me, go me. The other thing is I think you probably did the best job of describing what it's like to meet somebody you've known in a previous life. And I'm going to try not to get teary while I read this.
Oh my gosh. I'm moved that it touched you so deeply.
I don't know that I can get through it.
Oh my.
But I read this passage and it hit me right between the eyes. I don't even know that I can, Mary.
Okay.
I'm just going to do it. The passage says, it's Teresa saying to Salvo, "We are so lucky," she whispered. "When I met you, it was like going into a room that I never knew existed. Everything was so new, and yet I felt like I had always known you, had always been with you. It was the world that was new. I was seeing it for the first time instead of turning away because you were there. And you made everything that I feared beautiful. I was new too. You were the longing in my heart, the faith of my soul. I loved you before I met you, and now I realize that I had always been searching for you, asking God for you. And I was lucky enough to find you and to see myself as you saw me." Where did that come from?
Wow. The way you read that was so beautiful. It brought tears to my eyes. It came from meeting my husband. You know, it's like when you meet someone you love that deeply, it just, your whole world changes. You know, it is like walking into a room you didn't know exist. And the thing about, I was turning away from the world, but now I was turning towards it because you were there. That I think would be like the most accurate, you know, description of what it was like to meet my husband. Or I think when people fall in love, you know, like you just feel world weary. You feel like life has nothing for you. And then you meet someone you love and suddenly life becomes something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm an old softie.
Yeah, so am I. Oh, listen, I was crying half the way. I mean, while I was writing this, I was crying. You know, I felt like in Romancing the Stone, you know, that scene where
Yeah, I love that movie.
he's weeping and writing. But yeah, it made me weep too. And I have to tell you that sometimes I felt like I was taking dictation.
Yeah.
You know, like I was writing and these things would happen. I'd be like, oh, and I'd start crying and I'd, you know, do my best to get them down. You know, that it's not easy. You know, when you get inspired thoughts, it's not easy to get them down on paper because they come and go so quickly. And then you're crying on top of it, you know. So just trying to capture it was, it was quite wonderful. It's a privilege, you know, to be able to be like a conduit to write inspired words.
I think there's some people that are going to read this that'll feel like I've lived it, or I felt that, or it's you took that right out of my chest and put it on a page.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that you could reach into my head or my heart and throw that on a page.
Oh, what a wonderful thing to say. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
I feel so fortunate that I'm being interviewed by somebody who had such a sensitivity to what I wrote. Thank you.
Sure. that happened a few times in this book. It really did. There were a few things I saw in this book. I went, holy shit, if you don't mind my language. But I looked at, there was a few times I was just, you took my breath away with some of the things that were in this book. And just little tidbits, little things, little drops of knowledge that came out. And I thought that it just, that I think, like I said, it's like you could take it out of someone's mind and heart and throw it on the page, and it will resonate with someone, and it'll resonate deep with someone.
Well, you don't know how much that means to me, Tim, because that was my purpose. And as I said earlier, the prophets told me that I had a mission for the Blessed Mother. So I was on a mission. And if my words, and apparently with you, and this touches me so deeply, my words mean something, and they illuminate the heart and the consciousness, I couldn't ask for more.
Absolutely. There are 3 time periods here. The 1970s between Wisconsin and Chicago, right? The hardest one, because God was so absent in that, they were searching for God. The 1600s in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 3rd time period, which is, clarify for me, the 3rd time period is?
The 1970s in Rogers Park, Chicago.
That's right. Okay. So of those, I'm sorry, there's also the USA, Europe, Middle East, late 1800s through mid 1900s, right? With Teresa and Salvo.
Right.
In that family. And that's a huge, there's a huge swath of the book in there. With that, which time frame resonated with you or really stuck with you the most? And which sets of characters resonate with you the most?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I have to say the first incarnation was the foundation for the other 2. But then the second incarnation probably meant the most to me, because the character of Max was based on my husband.
Okay.
My husband was a very famous acting coach and actor and producer. And we traveled all through Europe together, and, it was based on him. So, that meant a lot to me. And then, and as I mentioned earlier, my husband died, and I had to go on, and I wanted to write about that. So I had Teresa die, and Salvo had to go on. And that way I could write about now I'm getting teary-eyed, what it's like to have to go on when you've lost the love of your life. So that section meant a lot to me. And then the 3rd section was like searching for God, grasping and confronting technology and confronting the evil that's taking over the world. And that was really hard for me. But then bringing in the prophets from Medjugorje, which was my goal, made it very, very important to me. That in a time when it wasn't easy, in their first incarnation, their whole life was about mystical participation with nature and the divine, and by the 3rd life, it wasn't easy to be in that relationship with the divine. So coming back to the prophets from Medjugorje and the Blessed Mother coming and saying, pray for peace, I really wanted to capture the importance of that, that then and moving forward, of the 70s and then moving forward on to today, we really have to find our way back to, and not through organized religion necessarily, but we have to find our way back to that connection to the divine.
So as we begin to wrap things up here today, Mary, how do we do that? I mean, technology is here to stay. It isn't going anywhere. In fact, we're getting deeper into it with AI and everything else.
Yeah.
How do we make that connection with the divine and still yet coexist with technology?
Well, yeah, I see that as a couple of questions. Like as far as technology, when I was in Egypt, when I went there, I was like, I don't want to stay at any American hotels. I want to stay at all the Egyptian hotels. I want to have the whole Egyptian experience. I got so sick. They had to carry me out of the car at one point, so the final night I had condescended to stay at the Hilton, the Cairo Hilton. Let me tell you, when I walked through those chrome doors into the air-conditioned lobby, I wept with gratitude. And we went up to our room, and there was a Coca-Cola in the mini fridge. And I said, I'm a spoiled American girl. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. And I walked out onto the balcony, and here was people living on top of buildings that had turned to rubble in cardboard boxes. And I thought, how do we change this? What can I possibly do? And the only thing that I can think of is personal responsibility. Take personal responsibility for the way you view technology, for the way you use technology, for what you feel is acceptable and not acceptable about technology. I think that's the only way things change, is by people taking personal responsibility. And as far as looking for God or the divine, or whatever you want to call it, it's all around us. It's not like it's hiding. It's all around us. It's still all around us. It's just opening yourself up to it. It's like realizing that it is there for you and it is sustaining. People meditate, and they receive energy and it's sustaining. People pray, they receive energy and it's sustaining. If you feel that you can't make a connection, you can. Just open yourself up to it. Allow yourself to feel it. It's real. It is real. It's not imaginary. It's not superstition. It's I think it is the greatest gift that we have as human beings, that we're in a flesh body, but we also have a soul that connects to divine energy, and that we can experience divine states of consciousness within this flesh body. And it's not corny, and it's not fiction. It's there and it's available to you. You don't have to join a cult or a religion or anything. You can just sit at home and open yourself up to it and say, I accept the divine energy that is all around me. I accept the healing power that is all around me. And eventually you feel it and you become more and more united with it.
Excellent. All right. Well, again, folks, the name of the book, The RAIN SAID SAMSARA, it's available right now. We have a link of it in the description of this program, so you can go get the book. Mary, I want to thank you so much for being here today.
My gosh, this was incredible, Tim. Like, your appreciation of my book, you have no idea how much that means to me.
Oh, it's my
pleasure.
pleasure.
Means so much.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Again, I encourage people to go get this book and read it. Again, even if you're not a romance fan, if you're like, I don't read romance novels, what are you talking about, Tim? This is more than that. This is much more than that. It's a fully developed story. If you're a fan of anything supernatural, anything metaphysical, anything having to do with these concepts, these are the same concepts that we talk about on the show all the time. Reincarnation. It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful story following characters from time frame to time frame. If you love the Highlander series,
yeah,
this is very much that type of feel. So I would say pick up this book, The RAIN SAID SAMSARA. It's a wonderful book. Mary Reynard Liss, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Tim. It was an absolute honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Folks, that'll do it for this week. A couple of reminders before we let you go. The Darkness Radio Apple app is being updated as we speak. It should be released, I believe, next week. We're hoping. That's the deal there. Check out the store and please support the show. Please support the show. DarknessRadioShow.com. Go to the shop. There's brand new items being added every week. So check that out as well. Potographs for Pooches. We're supporting the animal shelter in St. Cloud. We are ghost hunting the Palmer House in early June. So Tim Miley and the crew are putting on that event there. Get your tickets, potographsforpooches.com. There's also a link in the events section at darknessradioshow.com. Get your tickets. They're going fast. So are the rooms. So go get them right now. That'll do it for this week. Folks, again, winter is here. Snow came through this last weekend, and it is cold out there. You have people there in your neighborhood and in your community, your family, that are either elderly or disabled that need your help, either cleaning house or shoveling or doing whatever this winter, even going out and getting groceries. So please help somebody in your neighborhood or your community that is elderly, they're disabled this weekend. Be a light in someone's darkness this weekend. Do it for your buddies here at Darkness Radio. A message from your buddies here at Darkness Radio. All right. We'll see you next week for another great week of shows. You've been listening and watching the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.